Hi guys, Dr. Holly here, and I am going to answer one of the questions that you posted this week on the Dr. Holly Facebook page. So after looking at all the questions, I decided to pick some of the questions that have to do with an indulgence meal. There were several of them out there. Let me read a little bit from a few of them. Would you mind explaining what the indulgence meal is supposed to be? Can you really eat anything you want? Can you eat as much as you want? What do you do when you eat out? Really, what is the purpose, or why do we have an indulgence meal? Also, some more questions were kind of around the fact that maybe you feel bad after you eat an indulgence meal. It actually makes you sick. You know, do you still need to do one? Should you actually force yourself to have an indulgence meal even if you feel bad after you have it? So those are the questions I want to answer. So first, let me talk about what is an indulgence meal, and then I'll spend a little bit of time about what it isn't. An indulgence meal is a meal that you have, and it is a meal, it meaning one time when you sit down and you eat. It's not a day, it's not an afternoon, it's not a week. It is a single meal where you sit down and you have exactly what you want. So there's no limitations. You can have anything that you've been wanting to have, and it's actually something I think that's helpful because you're never really that far away from having any food if you're having a craving. So the indulgence meal, absolutely have exactly what you want. You can have the portion that you want. That's not limited. The one thing that is important in the indulgence meal is it needs to be planned. What that means is you can't just walk up and see some cookies laying on a plate, grab those cookies, eat them, and say, oh, that's my indulgence meal. An indulgence meal needs to be planned that you're going to have it on Thursday night or Saturday morning or whenever. And you don't have to plan what you're going to eat, but you do need to plan when you're going to have your indulgence meal. It's not about just grabbing some cookies, calling it an indulgence meal, when in reality, that was you just getting off plan. That was you just reacting to the environment, reacting to your situation. I want the indulgence meal to be planned, but you absolutely can have what you want and you can have as much as you want. The reasons that we have an indulgence meal is because I think it's more about the mindset than anything else. What I've noticed when people stay on a diet for a very long period of time, they start to kind of get in their head that they never get to have anything. These kind of poor me victim kind of thoughts. I never get to have pizza like my friends. I never get to go out to eat at my favorite restaurant. I never get to do this. I never get to do that. And behind that all is it's not fair. So one of the things that I think the indulgence meal serves is to allow that thought process not to get going. Because it can kind of build up and build up. And if you don't kind of let that come out every now and then, I always say kind of like release a little steam. You know, it's building up, it's building up. The indulgence meal releases a little steam so that you can keep going. If you don't, then sometimes I think you actually go down the path of having a huge kind of blowout where you eat everything in sight for a long period of time, or even you just get off track and you never get back on. So I think the indulgence meal is important to keep you on track so that you do realize that you're not going to be on a diet forever, that you can have some of your favorite foods again, and it teaches you how to do that too. It's about learning that gray zone, learning what to eat and when to stop. The other thing about an indulgence meal I didn't talk about is I allow you to have whatever you want in the portion that you want, but I really tell you to stop and think and taste the food, enjoy the food. It's not about cramming as much in your mouth as you can. It's not about how much food I can get in one meal. It's about enjoying it, really feeling what it feels like when you're full, and stopping in time, that you don't get overfull, that you don't get sick, and realizing that you can have another indulgence meal in a week or sometimes less, that this isn't a forever thing. And it's teaching you those skills too. So I really want you to become a food snob, I say. Don't eat anything that really you don't want. Taste it. And then when you're finished, stop and realize you can have it again. When I go out and have an indulgence meal, I always have a dessert. And usually I take 1 or 2 bites. And then I'm like, you know what? I loved it. It tasted great. That's all I need. If I eat more, I am probably going to be sick because I'm not used to that kind of fat and sugar and everything that's in there. But I love tasting it, and I know I can taste it again in the future. So that's another really important piece. If the indulgence meal is making you sick, if you feel really bad after it, then you're probably eating too much. And an indulgence meal doesn't have to be everything. If you want it to be, it can. It can be an appetizer, an entree, and a dessert. But if you have trouble, if that makes you sick, then I would say keep your meal pretty simple. Keep your meal on plan and add just one thing in that you'd like to try. Add just a dessert in at the end, or add maybe just a salad dressing or some cheese or something that makes it indulgent, but maybe not just this huge meal that's so different than what you're eating. So an indulgence meal doesn't have to be a huge deal. It doesn't have to be a huge feast. It can be if you want, and I hope you stop when you're full, or it can be just adding a little something to your regular meal. So if you're struggling and you're feeling sick, I think the way to go about that is to just add something to your meal and see how you do. And then pay attention to how you're feeling and stop soon. Don't eat too much, and realize you can always have a second indulgence meal in the future. So I hope that explains a lot about the indulgence meal. I do think they're important. I do think having an indulgence meal at least once a week keeps you on track by not allowing those feelings building up to where eventually you just do a full-blown off-plan type eating scenario. So I do think it's important to do. So thank you for your questions. Keep them coming, and I will still try to answer them in the future. Thanks.